what's going to go on there, and then it's revealed by Janet that there's the whole new world in between worlds in the quantum realm, where they're going to encounter all kinds of things that they've never seen before. So yeah, and the trailer kind of captured a lot of that.
How they MacGuffin that? Just sort of how they MacGuffin how they go to the quantum realm is pretty lame, and then they don't bring up and explain it.
Yeah, how they go there is like Cassie has this device or whatever, and then like this villain is like trying to like find them or whatever while they're trying to get out. But yeah, they're trying to get out of there before bad stuff happens. Is basically the setup for the story. But they actually do a lot of stuff with this story. I know it sounds like, why do we care about a guy who can control ants and like who can shrink and grow big and stuff? But they actually do a lot of really amazing stuff visually, story wise. They set up a really interesting villain for the next arc of the Marvel Universe. But as seen on Rotten Tomatoes, people didn't like this movie. We have a 47%.
Is that critics? No,
this
people liked it. Critics didn't.
Audiences
were
50-50. Critics were 50-50. Audiences liked it. Critics said that...
I thought like it was a little bit too amazing, and I'll get into that a little bit.
Yeah, critics said that it lacks the spark of fun that elevated earlier adventures, but Jonathan Majors Kang is a thrilling villain poised to alter the course of the MCU. Critic reviews on Rotten Tomatoes.
I would feel that's a pretty legit argument.
Pretty fair. Yeah. Audience says the plot's a bit of a mess, but overall, Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania starts Phase 5 of the MCU with a colorful, creative thrill ride that will leave you wanting to see much more of Jonathan Majors as Kang. So a similar kind of take, but a little bit more favorable.
Yeah.
I think those are fair enough stances. I enjoyed the film a lot. I thought it did a lot of really amazing things.
It does do a lot of amazing things. That I won't say wrong.
It's a very fantastical movie. Like it departures a lot from like the first two Ant-Man movies, especially because like the first one, like it's he can shrink, he can grow big.
Well, actually, this is sort of a heist movie also.
Yeah, I guess this is also a heist movie, but like it's still the first Ant-Man movie takes place in San Francisco. Yeah. The second Ant-Man movie also takes place in San Francisco.
And this movie also sort of takes place in San Francisco, technically.
It's just in like the small realm, the quantum realm inside San Francisco, whatever. Yeah. Yeah, it takes place in the quantum realm. So basically, imagine this takes place in like a special universe that's like in between spaces where all kinds of physics can be really different and stuff. And there's like a new villain that's like being trapped here because he has to be in this quantum realm because of like reasons related to the story and stuff. And that villain is played by Jonathan Majors and stuff. So yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what to say else about this movie. Like it's really, I don't know, where do we go from here about it? Like it's really visually captivating. Like I can't emphasize enough how much like this movie really, like all the other Ant-Man movies, they try to do as much as possible with like when you're always like, what are they gonna do with Ant-Man? Why do I care about Ant-Man? They always kind of surprise you with like how much they actually do with Ant-Man. And this one they go as far as big as possible. I feel like it's on the scale of like a Doctor Strange movie or like a Multiverse of Madness kind of movie in terms of like how far they go.
I mean, we can get into the spaghettification.
There's the violence in it, yeah, of course. But
yeah, that was. I feel like
that's as far as it got.
And I felt like that kind of stuff. Well, spaghettification is really. There's a lot of stuff in this movie that's like. It's gonna deter kids from watching the movie, even though it's like a Marvel movie. And like, there's all this stuff about like, oh, you have to make everything R-rated. And like, no, you have to make like I mentioned before, you have to make the fundamentals of the movie good. You don't have to make it R-rated or anything. You just have to make it like good story, good acting, everything. Yeah.
I don't think it gets super duper violent, but like maybe because like there's like quantum cloning, like there's some quantum trickery stuff where like people die but they don't die because they're quantum clones or whatever, and that can seem like a little creepy.
I don't even know if that's true. Like
yeah, in
the trailer you straight up see like Ant-Man. Imagine if he didn't have his helmet on and they spaghettified him like in Multiverse of Madness.
They don't go that far.
Yeah.
No,
he's doing the Baskin Robbins thing, but now he's getting spaghettified.
I think you have a big issue with spaghettification as a
Yeah.
phobia or something like that or whatever.
Yeah.
It's like it's very icky or whatever.
And like,
I mean, it's
I do think it has an
movie.
issue. There's always talking about like why are these movies not doing as well, and I feel like that could be a reason.
Yeah. What do you mean by that? The movie's not doing as well.
Like, you can't bring a 4-year-old to watch like that kind of film, you know?
Well, there's plenty of other reasons why you can't bring a 4-year-old to watch.
The plot's also a little bit complicated, also, which is another issue.
It's not like Star Wars where it's like, oh, they're fighting the good guys and the bad guys or whatever. Here, it's like, okay, there's like stuff that's like, you can't make it look like space aliens. You have to make them look like even weirder than space aliens.
There's
because
that
they're
too,
in the quantum realm. And then they say the word
Uncanny Valley stuff.
Right. You have to make them kind of like not even like traditional space aliens. So they have to be really inventive with all the like I don't know, like the buildings.
Like that stuff was pretty cool, actually. Yeah.
Like the buildings, how they
like buildings, the ship, like a human being, house.
Yeah, and then the quantum people aren't like quite like aliens. They're sort of like they're really weird, even like amongst the weirder aliens that like you would see in like a Guardians of the Galaxy movie or a Thor movie when they go into space or whatever. What else? Like they eat weird things and stuff like that.
Those things can like grow when you attack people.
Yeah, I feel like this is like trying to like capture like the vibe of like, when George Lucas was doing Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, you know, the aliens aren't actually aliens. They're like in the space between spaces or whatever. So they're in between dimensions. But then Steven Spielberg asked him, what do they look like?
This is done better than that, yeah.
Yeah, Steven Spielberg asked him, like, you know, what do they look like then? And then George Lucas is like, well, they look like aliens. But, like, this actually tries to, like, try and imagine, like, what that actually looks like. Yeah. So, yeah, like, there's, like, some uneven pacing and stuff. But, like, once they kind of get the ball rolling on, like, how things are going in the quantum realm, like, it actually catches up with, like, oh, okay, this is actually what's happening now. Like, they're talking with these characters, they're dealing with these conflicts, they're dealing with these interpersonal conflicts with each other, they're trying to find each other, and, when the ball gets rolling, like, it really takes off, and it becomes, like, this huge enthralling adventure, and, but it's very hard to explain what exactly is happening. I feel like it's pretty plot-heavy. They spend a lot of time explaining, like, not only the quantum
realm stuff. That's a short movie, too.
Yeah. It's a short movie, so they have to like pack it in. It's like a 2-hour movie. At least this cut of it that made it to theaters.
Maybe there'll be like a 5-hour version like Avatar is gonna have when it gets released on streaming apps.
Yeah, so who knows? Like maybe there will be like a.
I mean, like you even said, like when we were watching this, like this isn't in the trailer. This isn't in the movie. This isn't in the movie.
Yeah, so like they really have to pack in all the story and all the action and stuff in 2 hours, which is not a lot of time. And maybe they want to have more show times in theaters because we can't spend 3 hours on people watching Ant-Man. Nobody's going to want to sit around for that. So, it is definitely... I feel like it is worth being on a scale of like being a 3-hour movie. But at the same time, like, it's a hard pitch for people. It's hard to get their butts in the seats to watch a 3-hour Ant-Man movie. Because, like, they have to get over, like, okay, it's Ant-Man. But it does. It is a really epic scale kind of movie. It's like how like Guardians of the Galaxy like really does a lot of things that like you wouldn't expect, and in terms of like all it explores and like its punchiness and its action and its inventiveness with the visuals and the production design and all the alien designs and all the worlds they travel to and stuff. So and you got some of that from the trailer and stuff. Let's see if we can see some of these screenshots here. So here's like here's the movie poster, and like here we see like, you know, these bad guys,
the quantum knots.
Quantum knots. Here's some stuff of the people in the quantum realm, and then here's our cast of characters. The Wasp. Here's Ant-Man.
I guess they just use the same image in the middle.
Yeah, it's just the same thing.
There's two people in the middle.
Introducing Cassie. Here's Janet Van Dyne. Janet Van Dyne's a more central character in this story than in the movies.
I was going to get to it like after we said that stuff. Something just didn't make any sense. Like why the reason why they got to the quantum realm happened. Why Janet Van Dyne didn't tell them, even though like Cassie's been all grown up, and I don't know what she's been doing in the household all this time, not telling them anything.
Yeah.
And the ending with the Hunter was really dumb, which we'll get into in a moment, and stuff like that where the plot was like plot wholly inconsistent and not very good.
Yeah, the story is like, I feel like there was like points where they were losing us, and like it's like sometimes it'd be like very plot
before it gets to the quantum thing, it's just I thought we're gonna loot.
Yeah, but then you have moments like this where you have like worlds upon worlds, empires upon empires, building empires, biding time and stuff like that stuff seems like, wow, this is on an epic scale that's even beyond like anything in our universe and stuff. So that's really fascinating. That kind of stuff is really like brain bending and stuff, and it's really cool, but it's really hard to explain. Like you have to really nerd out to really be into this kind of stuff, and it's something I liked. Yeah, here's a little nice shot here where it's like Ant-Man and Cassie, and they're squaring off against like these quantum people. And
it's only Photoshop because they added a lot more in there than was actually there, and it looks a lot nicer than it does in the movie.
Yeah, exactly.
But this is like a photography shot, so it's fine.
Yeah, still image, and yeah, so yeah, and yeah, is there anything we show from this trailer that like just pause through this kind of moments here? Yeah, here's some moments. Just gonna pause, skip through.
The other thing with the trailer, the movie's so short, like they have to show something that's gonna spoil something.
Yeah, like look at some of this stuff. Like this is like pretty wild. And like yeah, this sequence here where there's a bunch of like what appear to be like here's Ant-Man stacked on top of something. That was a great moment in the film. And here's like a bunch of like what appears to be an army. So yeah, and here's like a bunch of Ant-Men or whatever facing off. It's pretty brutal, but it's not real though.
Spoiler.
It's not real. So yeah, it's I mean, yeah, I highly recommend people watch this.
I would say that, yeah. Whether it's good or not, it's totally different. But like, definitely watch it, yeah.
Yeah, and let me see. Everybody's bringing something to the table in terms of like their characters and the story. The acting is pretty good. The visuals are good. The world building is amazing.
Yeah.
The storytelling of like how the plot actually goes is like kind of uneven, and that's probably the weakest point of it. But like the visuals and creativity and the world building is fascinating. And Jonathan Majors as the villain Kang in this is really compelling. You like kind of like.
Well, something that comes to mind right now is that he's like an alien, even though like he doesn't even he's just a costume. He doesn't really have makeup or anything.
Yeah, a lot of it is like him just like just being like this image of like he's got no mask on and he's in like the garb or whatever.
Yeah.
And a lot of it, and even just like that, like they don't want to get his mask on because that would get in the way of his like performance that he does in his face and stuff, and that really how he like delivers lines, like how his cadence on like how he like tells people like Ant-Man interesting, like like it's very compelling. Like you can, it's like his voice is like dripping with like sinister vibes and stuff.
So like Peter Cullen or like those kind of voice acting that can make it seem like Zillion.
Yeah, it's like a kind of haunted kind of character, a haunting kind of character,
Yeah.
And he's also portraying a character that I don't know, kind of like views people in a very utilitarian kind of way, and is kind of like has gone through like brain bending kind of things in his past. So like maybe that's caused him to like be unstable and view people in a certain kind of way. So yeah, that kind of comes through in his performance and stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah, you kind of like, yeah, and that's kind of like what makes a lot of like villains like Thanos, like Kang, is that they kind of view people in terms of like a means to an end, and they don't empathize with people anymore, and yeah, and they speak in terms of like utilitarian terms, and anyway, yeah. He views us like insects. You're Ant-Man, like you're in the way of my
he's like a
destiny.
omnipotent being,
Yeah. He's like an omniscient being in the scale of like a Thanos and stuff, and you can really feel that in this
Probably
movie.
more so because like he travels through time and stuff.
Yeah, yeah. But yeah, that's his character, is that he's like a time traveling, multiverse traveling character and stuff.
Yeah.
And if he's in Loki,
I feel like you have to watch both at the same time.
You should watch it.
Otherwise, you'll be confused. Because I watched Loki, and I was like, "Who is this guy?" Now I watched this, I was like, "Oh, I gotta watch Loki to figure out what happened in that." So
yeah, it's kind of like, yeah, Loki explains it a little bit more, but like most of the series isn't really about him. But it's kind of about him the whole time.
Also, I had this flashback to like Tim Burton's Planet of the Apes, where they show the statue, and I'm like, this is pretty dumb.
Yeah.
And then when I watched the movie, I was like, oh, okay, that's fine. Yeah.
Yeah, and then this movie explains a lot of the stuff that happened in Loki, actually. Yeah. So, so it's kind of a, I don't know, the multiverse of the MCU is falling apart because like you have to watch more TV shows upon movies and stuff.
That reminds me,
stacking up.
Like if you've never watched Ant-Man before, would you know any of these characters from the Ant-Man family?
Yeah, I guess you'd have to catch up on who everyone is. Also.
I think that's a major complaint from like the critics section of the Rotten Tomatoes thing.
Yeah, like they just kind of throw it at you. They just assume you already have been watching the previous episodes of this really long TV show.
Yeah.
That like you have to watch like 20 movies to understand.
And you also have to remember what's going on, also, which is the thing.
Yeah, and then they do callbacks and stuff like, oh, you remember in Germany, Scott, and remember in, remember going into space, Scott, and like they just.
I fought Captain America. I fought whatever.
I fought with Captain America. I'm not that stupid. Ha ha ha. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, should we get into spoiler talk soon, or let's take
all spoilers anyway?
Yeah. Anyway, let's take a break and then we'll get into spoiler talk.
Yeah.
All right, let's take a break. Yeah. We'll be back from the break and then we'll get into spoiler talk. All right, see you soon.